Good morning, students. Hope you're fine. And here we are once again with your topic from our previous class. As you already are aware, it was a poem composed by one of the greatest poets India has ever produced, Rabindranath Tagore, who was also known by the name of Gurudev. So here we are with the poem Paper Boats. It's titled Paper Boats. Let me tell you a little bit about the poet Rabindranath Tagore. He was originally a Bengali poet and he has also written in English, and he has also translated some of his work which was in Bengali. He has translated that Bengali work in English also. And then he was also bestowed with Nobel Prize. See how great a writer he was. He was bestowed with Nobel Prize for his works Gitanjali. Gitanjali is a collection of poems. It was so good work of his that he was given Nobel Prize for that. So here we are the poem. We discussed it in the previous class and most of you could do so well because I asked you for sending me audio messages so that I could check your speaking skills also. And most of you who sent me those audio messages, they fared very well and I could understand. I could comprehend that they have understood the poem. So let's revise it again. So it's about a child. Here the poet is imagining himself a child, a young small child who has a liking, who has a penchant for making paper boats out of old newspapers like children do. Many children do when there is rain and when there are puddles of water, they tend to make paper boats and then float them in those puddles. Here the poet is imagining himself a small child and he's also doing that, making paper boats and floating them down the stream. So, in the following poem, the poet talks about his own experience of floating paper boats down a flowing stream. So, let's see what the poet tells us. We'll just discuss it, we'll just know it line by line what the poet is trying to tell us. Like I said, he's imagining himself as a small child and floating those paper boats in the stream. Day by day, I float my paper boats one by one down the running stream. So, day by day, what does it mean? Almost every day, daily, he makes paper boats and floats them down the running stream. Running is flowing, stream with flowing water. And what does he do? First, he makes the paper boats, and after that, what does he do? In big black letters, I write my name on them. First, he makes the paper boats, and after that, he writes his name in big black letters, like in bold letters, so that if a person sees that boat, he can see the name on it because it is written in big letters with black ink. I write my name on them and the name of the village where I live. So he writes his name on those boards and also his whole address, the name of the village he lives in. So he makes boats day by day, almost daily. He makes the boats whenever there is rain, whenever he sees the flowing water, whenever he is near that stream, he makes those paper boats and then he writes his name and the name of the village, name of his village on that boat. Why does he do that? Why does he write his name? Because I hope that someone in some strange land will find them and know who I am. He writes his name, because he hopes that when his boats when those boats will flow in that stream, they will land up in some strange land. He hopes, he has got high hopes. He hopes that water those paper boats would last long in the water, and they'll keep flowing to some far away land, to some far off land. These are his hopes. See, this poem is telling us about the hopes of the child also, how hopeful he is, how positive he is about his hopes. So he hopes that the boats he makes will flow to far away places, and to some strange is here, it means foreign places. Those boats will land up in foreign places, and someone from that strange place will find his boat and read his name on the boat, and that person will know that, see, there is some child living in this village who has floated this boat in the stream. So these are his hopes. And what else does he do with his boats? I load my little boats with surely flowers from our garden. See what he does. First, he makes the boats, then he writes his name on that, and after that, he puts surely flowers on those boats. Surely flowers are sort of flowers which bloom in the morning. Like there is a flower, morning glory. They only bloom in the morning. So he floats those boats loaded with surely flowers. I load my little boats with surely flower from our garden, and hope that these blooms of the dawn, blooms here are flowers, dawn is the early morning, blooms of the dawn will be carried safely to land in the night. Again, there is hope for him. He's so imaginative, he's so creative. He doesn't just float his boat in the water in that stream and forgets about it. No, he keeps on thinking about what will happen to his boats, and what does he hope about his boats? He hopes that these boats will flow away to foreign lands, far away foreign lands, and then he loads them with shuli flower from his garden. And again he is hoping that these blooms of the dawn, these early morning blooms or flowers will be carried safely to the land in the night, that they will keep that this boat will keep flowing, and this flower will remain as fresh as it was in the morning, till it flows to some strange land in the night. See, this poem is telling us about the child's creative mind, his imaginative mind, and how hopeful he is, how positive he is in his hopes, how wonderful his thoughts are. I launch my paper boats and look up into the sky. So, launch here is he sets, he puts his paper boats, he launches, like we launch some mm, plan or project. So he launches, he sets his boat in the stream, and then he looks up into the sky. When he puts that boat in the flowing water, after that he looks up into the sky. He looks up and sees and wants to see the sky and what he finds there, and see the little clouds setting the white bulging sails. And what does he see there when he looks up into the sky? He sees, this is all his imaginative mind working so wonderfully. He sees the little clouds, small clouds, setting the is the old way of saying or using word like there, their, there, unka. So the is the word, old way of using word or saying word like there. So what does he see when he looks up into the sky? He sees the little clouds there, and he imagines Set those clouds are setting the bulging sails, that those clouds are also floating, like they are floating in the sky, but he imagines that those clouds are also floating in water. And why does he think that like that? He thinks that they are competing with his boat. There is a competition going on between the clouds and the boats, paper boats. He flows in the stream. So what does he see into the sky? He imagines that those little clouds are setting their sails. When the sailor goes to the sea, first of all he prepares his boat, and the first thing he does is that he sets his sails. He prepares for going to the sea, and those sails help him float in the water. So here he also imagines that the clouds are setting their sails with their bulging is swollen और फूला हुआ जो होता है, कोई चीज जो फूल जाती है या सूज जाती है, तो bulging sails. He imagines that those small clouds, they are actually small, but that puffiness in them is that they are working as sails for those clouds. And he imagines that those clouds are competing with his boat down the flowing stream. I know not what playmate of mine in the sky sends them down the air to race with my boat. And he thinks, and he doesn't know. He imagines it all, that those clouds are competing with them, with his boat. But who is the person, who is the playmate, who is his companion, who is trying to compete with his flowing boat, who is setting those clouds to sail? So he imagines that there is some playmate of his up there in the sky who is competing with his boat. So I know not what playmate of mine in the sky sends them down the air to race with my boat. So this is what he imagines, that there is some person up there, there is some playmate up there in the sky who is trying to compete with his boat. And what does that playmate of his use for competing with his boat? The clouds with their bulging sails. And when night comes, I bury my face in my arms. See, the whole day he's thinking about his boat. He's not forgetting about his boat because of his creative and imaginative mind. So when night comes, he again thinks of his boat. I bury my face in my arms. अपना मुंह छुपा लेता हूँ अपने arms में, and then he keeps thinking about his boat and dream that my paper boats float on and on. And then I do what? He keeps on thinking about his boat. He even dreams about his boat. What would have happened to his boat? He has he has put that in the stream. He has floated it down the stream. Then what happens after that? And dream that my paperboat boats float on and on under the midnight stars. He's just dreaming and imagining that his boat is still floating down that stream to some foreign land. The fairies of sleep are sailing in them. What else does he imagine? What else does he think? What else does he dream about? That there are fairies of sleep who are putting those children to sleep. They are sailing in them, and the laden ends their baskets full of dreams. And what have they put? What have they loaded in these boats? Who? The fairies. What have they put in those in those boats? The fairies of sleep are sailing in them, and the lading ins is the load or cargo, their baskets full of dreams, that those fairies of sleep have loaded them with beautiful dreams for the people, for the children especially, that they are carrying those dreams for the children, for children like this, who is imagining about his boat, who is thinking about his boat, that he's putting it, he has hopes that some person of some faraway land will find the boat and know about this child. And then he loads the boat with surely flower from his garden. And again, there is something more in the poem, that some he imagines that there is some playmate up in the sky who is competing with his, who is putting those clouds with those bulging sails to compete with his boat in the stream. So this was all about the poem, where the poet Rabindranath Tagore imagines himself as a child and tells us about his experience of how he would make those paper boats and put them in the running stream to float to a faraway land. Now let's know a little bit more about the poet. Rabindranath Tagore, 1861 to 1941. That means he was born in the year 1861 and passed away in 1941. Was a Bengali poet who was also known as Gurudev. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1913 for Gitanjali, a collection of poems. So this was about the poet as well as the poem. So that was all. Now in the next video, I'll send you the book work of the same poem.